I was thinking about a conversation I had a few, God, I think it might actually be a few years ago, but I found the conversation interesting and it just popped up in my head and I thought I'd share it. So a few years ago, I was talking to a network engineer from Verizon. Um, we were just having sushi and just, he was looking for some sort of mentorship or um, just some guidance about where to go. As a network engineer, he was trying to go into maybe becoming some sort of architect, moving into program management, just leaving the networking behind and focusing more on the management side of things. Or if he does have to stay in a technical role, he wanted it to sort of be subject matter expert type level. So we're talking, and I just commented how the city of Newark was looking for a chief data officer or a Newark data officer, I guess. And I'd thrown my hat into the ring, and I was kind of excited to, maybe be considered. I threw my hat into the ring in 2020, and the job is still up. I have not heard back, so hopefully one of these days, fingers crossed, I'll hear back because I have executed as a chief data officer, and I feel like I could actually add some value. But I digress. And we're having a good dinner. I'm just giving him advice, and we're just chit chatting. And he asks me what it's like to be at the sea level, but more so, he asks me, how do you kind of keep up with all the knowledge that you're gaining over the years? And I told him very honestly, I don't. I said I used to be a mobile developer. I said I could not. If I open an IntelliJ or Eclipse or some other IDE, I said I'll be honest, I have no idea what I'm doing. Xcode, Android Studio, like I barely remember using them. Quite frankly, I said as you move up, like you have to make certain sacrifices. And I'm not to say that every executive, every VP, every manager is non-technical. Uh, that's just not the case. But I told him, I said, I have a limited memory, I have limited attention, and as I moved up, I kind of made this conscious choice that I'm not going to keep up with the nitty gritty details of technology, right? Um, I can't keep up with it. It doesn't make sense to keep up with it. It's just too much effort on my part. I keep up with trends at a high level, right? I have just high level knowledge of technologies and topical overview of solutions and new developments or standards. But I don't, it's not that there's some snowball, and as you go through life, you keep gathering more and more knowledge, and your brain just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Um, it's just my answer. There might be CIOs or CTOs out there who are uh, well, CTO probably is very technical, but I said you might find CIOs or CDOs or whatever acronym who are very, very technical. I said they're extremely technical and they're business savvy and they have good interpersonal communication and people skills. And those are very rare finds. And, I have a lot of respect for them. But just me personally, I made the conscious decision that I could not really keep up with my skill set, my technical skills. And I just let them lapse. And I said, now, if someone starts talking about the sort of inside details of cloud architecture and how certain applications are being hosted here, and I don't know, they're spinning up virtual machines there, and start talking about different environments, I start just getting a little nervous because I'm like, yeah, I'm only following maybe a quarter of what's being said here, because at the end of the day, um, I focus more on business operations, more on using technology as a vehicle to solve problems, serve the agenda of the enterprise, and get us from point A to point B. And now how the technology works, what's under the hood is not, it's not necessary for my own agenda or the things that I do. So he seemed a little shocked. I don't think he was expecting that answer. But also, granted, he didn't seem like he'd spoken to one CIO for some sort of ed tech company. But it seems like I was the second executive he'd spoken to. And when we met, I had a very wide background the CIO he spoke to has sort of been, I think at three companies in the last like 20 years. Meanwhile, I'm at, every year that goes by, I'm at a different company. So 10 years, that's 10 companies he can, draw experience from through me. So I think he was surprised with my response, and I was very candid. I said, I don't need to be technical in order to execute well. And he asked me if maybe he should start working on his soft skills, or you know, learn more about budgeting and P&L and all these things that managers typically handle. I said, yeah, absolutely. I said, that's very important knowledge, but definitely keep up your technical skills as you are in a technical role. But I said, it's really just, it depends on you. All right. Some people, they keep up the technical skills, and again, it's a choice. But as you move up, do be prepared that you will get rusty, because even if you try to stay up to date, if your day-to-day job responsibilities do not actually involve a lot of technical know-how, you're just going to get rusty regardless, right? And that's something I recognize, that if I'm not using my technical skills, keeping them sharp is actually going to be very difficult for me, because my 9 to 5, if I'm not using those skills, that means in my own time, my free time, I have to keep up with skills that I'm not even really using in the workplace. So whatever I need to know, I make it my job to know. I'm always happy to get trained. I'm always happy to have, my employees educate me. And likewise, if there's, skill sets that I used to have that I don't have now, I'm not embarrassed in any way that I've lost them, because it's deliberate, right? To make room in my head and, free up bandwidth so that I can be more effective as a leader. I hope he kind of learned something from that day. We had a great dinner. We kept in touch, but communications kind of dropped off after a while. He did text me. I think we texted we texted and called a few times throughout, 2020, a few times in 2021. Then we just kind of fell off. Time to time, I see him looking at my LinkedIn, and then I'll look at his, and I see he's still at Verizon. So hopefully good things are in store for him, and he'll be making some progress. He did ask me, I think in 2021, we had like a phone call. He asked me if I'd made any progress with that Newark data officer job. I told him no. And, he did wonder sort of how a data officer operates if they're not, skilled in their technologies. And I just told him very frankly that, to be an effective leader, there's so many things you need, and technical know-how, high level understanding, you can really execute, very, very well. It's not a deal breaker. I don't have to be a data scientist to be a data officer. I don't have to know IBM Cognos or some other technology. I don't have to be a master at Crystal Reports or Google Analytics. And that was the second conversation we had that was kind of in depth about career and stuff like that. And then we sort of really lost touch. But I was thinking about this conversation and just this sort of perception that people have that in every company, I think, CIOs, CTOs, CDOs, all these, all these acronyms, I think they're seen as the highest technical authority. But CIO is different to different companies. But at the end of the day, while a CIO is responsible for a lot of the technology as well as the business operations that are driven by technology in a company, responsible for saving money, responsible for operational expenses, responsible for making smart IT investments and handling the entire company's portfolios, we're not seen as sort of the subject matter experts, right? That's why having IT architects or what have you, or these distinguished engineers, are so important, because, in a company, a CIO is responsible for a lot, but that doesn't mean he'll be, executing or getting involved in a lot of the work hands-on. So just wanted to kind of clear up that misconception, if anyone has that first of all, you need to be technical in order to be successful in these roles. You really don't. And second of all, the idea that these roles by nature, are very technical, or it's expected that, if there's ever a challenge that's technical, these, the people at the C level are expected to contribute hands-on. That's that's also not what happens. If there's a problem and no engineer can solve it, the CIO isn't going to roll up his sleeves. He can maybe, but odds are he's just going to start looking at vendors and see if there's some external resource that we can acquire and get over this hump or problem that has arisen. So with that said, I'll finish this up. And hopefully this was a little bit insightful to people who might not know too much about what CIOs do. And maybe you had an illusion that the CIO is one thing, and now you understand it's a little bit more nuanced and different than what people assume.